Welcome to all the friends who are participating in this program and this Zoom talk about a very important topic, the elections in the US and the role that the Indian diaspora is going to play. This talk is organized by Tattva Talks, uh, a think tank that basically focuses on all issues that concern India and the world. And then we organize talks, hold seminars, symposia, and then hold roundtables on issues of national importance and issues that concern India and its growth story, the strategy, and all other aspects. And we strongly believe that the Indian diaspora, numbering around I think 5 million, if I'm not wrong, uh, and the role that they're going to play in the upcoming elections and the tasks that are cut out for them. To discuss this subject, we have Miss Purnima Nath. Purnima ji is a rare species in several ways because she has come from the farthest corner of this country and she has come from Agartala. Having worked for 12 years in Northeast, I know how difficult it is for the people of Northeast to make it to the US. There's no culture of going to US in that part of the country, especially in the Tripura region, and she has migrated from Tripura and became an Indian citizen. And she would, in any case, give a brief account about herself and the work that she's doing. But we would very much like to listen to her about the role that Indian diaspora has to play, are playing, and would be playing in the days to come for the all important elections to the US presidency that are slated in November this year. So, without wasting much time, I request Purnima Nath to take over. And well, we don't, though we say 45 minutes is the specified time, she can, cross that 45 minutes duration. She can take more than that period. This is only a suggestive time limit. She can go on even for 1 hour, and that will be followed by a Q&A. And after the Q&A, I think the total time that we have is around 1.5 hour and about 1 hour 45 minutes or so. So, Purnimaji, the floor is yours.
Awesome. Thank you so much, everybody. Good evening to all of you. I suppose most of you are joining from India. And thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to come and speak to you about what is happening for Indian Americans over here. My name is Purnima Nath, and I actually come from Agartala. And I'm an engineer, and over the years, my career shifted dramatically from engineering to software engineering. Could you please go on mute if you are not speaking? There's a lot of disturbance coming. Thank you very much. From engineering to management consulting to non-profit management to politics. Politics is everywhere, literally. It really didn't matter whether a corporate settings or a little organization. So that's my background, and I come from absolutely no political clout or political background. My interest rised up on this particular topic is because I saw a lot of chaos, the same way that happens in Indian elections, the corruptions and the suppressing of the voices, and you literally have no kind of ability to speak out if there's a injustice that is going on. And this country, and in all honesty, in America in last 20 years, out of last 20 years, I did not see this kind of things in our level, in the lowest level possible for 18 years or so. But this is happening right now, and that is very concerning for me. And that is exactly why I have taken a greater interest in politics, and looked up, researched, and see what was going on. And I also jumped in on a local politics. And with that in mind, if I have your permission, I'd like to present the slides that I have created for you. Would you please help me share this slides,
Yeah,
please?
yeah. In the bottom
Share
of your
screen.
screen, you
Mhm.
find
There is,
this arrow, the share
Sure.
screen.
Wonderful.
Is it there?
Yes, and let me know if you're able to speak.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, we are able to see. We are able to see.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Um, All right. Again, thank you so much. And let's begin. So basically, before I start, I usually take a couple of inspiration as to what drives that particular topic and thought. Coming from India, I know that even in India, most of the politicians or do not actually follow what our predecessors and our ancestors has given to us. But one of the particular quote is quite interesting, and I have picked up from Chanakya. It says to commit treason is prohibited, to act against the state or the ruler is offense. Also the laws and institutions of that state are not to be transgressed. And it is very important because this is what's happening literally every single major country. If you look at it, there are state sponsored or foreign sponsored terrors happening in India and in United States today. And all kind of activities happening against the state, against the law, against order, against normal citizens. And this is exactly what's happening. We're going through a period where enemies and the traitors of our countries are trying to topple the government and want to establish their own kind of government. And if I look at certain democratic oriented quotes, on the left hand side, I'm not sure exactly who said, but these quotes are very important for us to know. The democracy will cease to exist when you take away from those who are willing to work and give to those who do not. And similarly, any democracy that allows the majority to vote away the rights of individuals will fail. It's quite interesting what's happening, the similarities in India and United States. As we know, one of them is the largest democracy and another is the oldest democracy, and that's where certain kind of similarities also come. And one of the quote that is favorite of mine is because I wrote it and it's inspiration of me. It is foolish majority could be the cause of failure of democracy, meaning if when we are in democracy and majority wins, and in majorities are vacuous and stupid and votes the wrong people on the seat, the democracy literally fails because the minority will not have voice and the voices are going to get shut down. And that's what is quite important in our countries at this point. So with that, this is how we're going to go ahead. I'm going to literally take you through such information about what happened in the past, just to give you a context of where I'm coming from, little bit of information about where we are at election 2020 in November, some information about US-India similarities, as well as the threats that we are facing, and especially the security threats we are facing. And then we're going to then connect back to what we can do about it. So is that a good plan?
Yeah, yeah, fine. That's fine. That sounds very fine.
Very, very good. Awesome. So to start our talk today, it is very important to establish the fact that this election 2020 November is never, it's like a never before event. Why it is so important to understand? It's because of the country where we are and how we have literally arrived in this particular critical situation. We literally have one shot to save this country from falling apart. It is a ideological war between the right and wrong, the anti-American versus patriots, the left and right, democracy versus tyranny. Literally, there's no point of there's no opportunity for us to return back to the normalcy if we don't act on this election. So if you look at the screen, there's a target that I've created. This particular target we'll see a couple of times throughout our presentation. It is also very important for us to understand exactly what the target is. As you can see, it is very similar to what is happening in India and in United States. Modi is right now in second term. We have seen the negative campaign, the constant bashing against him on from the soil of India, and similar things that's happening in United States against Trump. What has happened for last 3.8 years is unbearable. One after another, false propaganda that was shot, and media played a crucial role to throw and make it big enough for people to not understand what was truly going on. So unfortunately, the toppling of Trump government is not the goal. He is just in the middle. And they use all sorts of outer shell in the name of equality, diversity, multiculturalism, BLM, as you can see, it's a sort of like a caste issues, which is now in United States as well. Political correctness. They use that kind of aspects to target Trump, to topple him in order to establish a government which is a combination of communism and Islamism. And that is our issue at this point. We talked about ideological war, and you must understand, it's one of the question I get, oh, India doesn't have left and right. But I want to tell you, India does have a left and right. There is no centrist at this point. If you are a centrist, you are nowhere, literally. If you look at this particular slide, and there's a clear distinction between what is left and what is right. And what kind of policies drives that, literally speaking. So whether it's a sanctuary city, whether it's illegal immigration, whether it's funding illegal immigration through the tax collected from the legal citizens and crashing economy and making sure the country falls and causing up to the enemies of our country is the leftist ideology at this point. Now, if you tell me that a leftist ideology doesn't exist in India, let me remind you, we have Congress who signed an MOU with China. That is a never heard kind of situation in the world. You usually, a foreign government signs contract, signs documents with the government of a country, not a political party. Now, if you take AIMIM, if you take TMC from West Bengal, if you take even the Samajwadi Party and Shiv Sena in Maharashtra, they are all in the left side, even DMK. The concept of toppling the country and pushing ideologies and policies which actually tells you the country is wrong, country is bad, and literally every single youth that comes out of the college hates that particular country. It doesn't happen just like that. It takes almost a generation plus 2 generations to to come to that particular mindset. And in America, this is happening for at least 40 years, where now we have a generation who literally wants to burn the country's flag. They think the country is horrible. They think there are better countries in the world, and they want to destroy this particular country. Similarly, if you look in Indian context, if you talk about JNU, if you talk about AMU, the Aligarh Muslim universities, or Jamia Millia, you have seen what has happened in Shaheen Bagh. You have seen what is happening in even Tamil Nadu, and even for the matter of fact in Andhra Pradesh. So when somebody says we don't have a left and right ideologies over here, you certainly do, and it exists. There's no centrist policy at this point, and it's not going to work out. You have to choose a side, and this is the decision is on us as to which side you want to be. In India, they want to literally take out the heritage, tradition, culture, and history of India. Similarly, this is what's happening in the United States. They hate this country so much, and they talk about this country was built upon blood and etc. So we must take care, literally burn it down to the ground. There are certain statesmen that is coming out saying that if the government, if the state doesn't listen to us, we're going to burn this down. And that kind of ideology, when somebody burns the American flag in the soil of America, the state, the government must stop it. And that must happen in India too. So let's look at what binds us, what is the similarities for US and India. As we talked about, these are major democracies. The US is the oldest democracy and India is the biggest democracy. We have a lot of consumers. Similarly, the threats the countries are facing at this point, they're very much similar, whether it is a border and national security, illegal immigration threats, Islamic terrorism, weakening US forces. Similarly, there's a term that was coined, breaking India forces, as well as toppling nationalist government who wants to make the country strong economically as well as militarily. And from a perspective of shared values, we share values together. We want to grow. We want to increase our footprint in terms of trade, in terms of technology, in terms of making sure that we have proper policies placed for people to do well within our countries. So that kind of thought process and that kind of interest that we have for two different countries, these are what binds us. Of course, United States is much different than in India from a perspective of population. Well, India has almost 5 times, I suppose, the population. So United States have the capital, India has the consumers, United States have the technology, India has the labor. So that we can, we are a natural partner because of the democracies. We're not shutting down anybody. And even a foreign media could come within the soil of India as well as United States. They can bash the state here. It is not ruled by a party like CCP, Chinese Communist Party, who does not allow any kind of criticism. And let's look at some of those major threats for United States and India. I have given you a diagram over here so for you to understand very clearly as to what are the major ones. Obviously, there's more, but we're just going to focus on some of those major ones. Obviously, communism is one, Islamism and Islamization is second, and also because we're talking from a context of in India and United States, one of the area that we are going to target is extinction of Hindus. Now, would you please go on mute if you are not speaking?
Please unmute those who are. Please unmute.
Thank you
Please.
very much. Thank you. I appreciate that. Let's look at one by one of these threats going forward. We will look at the communism part of it now. If we looked at the target document before, now if you look at in terms of ousting Trump, we must also understand exactly what is happening. We looked at the quote from Chanakya in terms of how they are trying to go against the state, against the country's the existence itself. Now, one of the things that we talk about, I taken a reference about in 1919 Rowlatt Act. Literally speaking, there was a act that was put on in Indian ground by British that there would be no gathering over 4 people. There, they can Indians cannot keep any weapon at home or elsewhere. There, no organization can even start without the permission of British. No social event can happen without the permission of British. British, meaning a marriage or some ceremony that we do within Indian context, we could not do without British being there, scrutinizing and supervising. That guns were being taken away from Indian people, let's say. Meanwhile, what was happening is and also basically they were trying to silence people. So now if you look at the Chinese coronavirus effect in United States or entire world including India, what has happened is that suddenly where the countries were caught off guard, people didn't know exactly how to solve it, and different countries took different kind of measures, and within, and I mean enemies within had also took advantage for this particular threat and also spread viruses. And then if you look at from a United States standpoint, this was heavily politicized between left and right. The right says that some vaccines work. For example, the hydrochloroquine, it works. But however, because of the political interest, the leftist parties, which is the Democrat Party at this point, decided that they should be literally locking everybody at home. And that is not a bad way to start, but what happened over here when President Trump took action against China and the travel, and taking action against how to combat this pandemic, the Democratic Party criticized him, mocked him, and also threatened him, saying that he's going beyond his power structure. He's overbearing and pushing his ability, executive powers on people. So what we have seen over the last few months is unbearably a political division between the parties as to what to do. And today where we are is they don't want to open the schools. They're enforcing mask literally in to every household. You can't walk without a mask and etc. However, though, these particular rules are not followed universally, meaning Democrat Party are okay if there is riots going, if there is a protest going, and large gathering of people with no social distancing following, and that is perfectly fine. However, if there is a political rally, that's when they politicize also. So they are trying to utilize this particular coronavirus in order to shut people down, in order to politicize, in order to push their own agenda. And what is happening along the way also, they're trying to shut people down. They don't want to listen to different kind of ideas or ideologies. So it doesn't matter what I say. It doesn't matter what the president of this country is saying. It is what they're saying, and also media like CNN, NYT, or Washington Post becomes their communication arm. I call it as a media mafia. They want to propagate the Democrats' message. So unfortunately, when we are looking at the American sovereignty, it was built upon on a liberty, freedom, and which is what's getting targeted at this point. You can't literally make any decisions. Each governor of the countries, governors of the states, are actually enforcing laws and policies that goes totally opposite to what President Trump is suggesting. And unfortunately over here, if you look at China CCP, it has been a threat for this country, including India, for quite a while. And Chinese government felt the pressure from Trump presidency. And his administration, whether it is from a security perspective, IP, the intellectual properties, trade, the secrets that they are stealing from this country, whether we have supply chain dependency in China, whether it was unfair kind of trades. Trump presidency had stood up very, very strongly and firmly against China. Similarly, we have recently seen how Modi government has stood against Chinese aggression in the border. So basically, when I talk about communism versus American sovereignty, I would like to literally tell you the connection of communism and voice suppression that is opposite to what American sovereignty is, what America was built on, the freedom and the liberty. You want to go to college, it's up to you. If you don't want to go to college, it's up to you too. If you want to work, it's up to you. If you want to travel the world, it's up to you. That is the kind of freedom that American had pushed over the years. But these are some things that's going to change if at all this election, Mr. Trump is not returned back. We'll also look at how we got to this point. Now, one very critically, I talk about this slide is that currently where we are, it's no longer a covert operation at this point. Everything is out in the open. We know what is happening, but some organizations and some individuals don't choose to agree that this is happening. They're still in a denial mode. The bottom layer where you see demoralization, usually it takes 20 to 25 years, one generation, let's say. And on top you have destabilization, that takes about 3 to 5 years. So usually, if you look at, literally speaking, if this has happened, this demoralization aspect has happened in this United States for at least 20 to 40 years. For 40 years, this is happening, and we have two generations who came out of the school systems, public school systems, who literally hate this country. And this is similar to, you can literally take this context to Indian context as well. In the schools, in the educational institution today, the kids that are coming out, they are not coming out with the right kind of mindset who loves this country. Even from an Indian context, they don't want to keep our culture. They hate our culture. And similarly, if you look at the destabilization, it took 3 to 5 years usually. But if you look at what happened from 3.5 years over the last Trump presidency, this is exactly what we have seen, literally. They are trying to attack law enforcement. They want to abolish the homeland security, the customs, literally open border. You can walk through the open border, and burden on the state, the government of United States, is to take care of no matter who comes. No scrutiny, no checking process. That is what they want. And if we do not do anything, this is where we are in a crisis point. We are actually at a point that this country is at a destruction point if we don't do anything. Now, if you look at the debates in Indian TV as well as here, it is exactly the same. Whether it is facts, whether it's a picture, videos, and document you produce from a factual perspective, facts doesn't matter. It is feeling over facts. It is what they feel. It's not about what the fundamental beliefs are, what the country's essence are. So whether it is economy, whether it's a defense, whether it's a foreign relation, we are unfortunately getting attacked from all kinds of aspects. And this model is very important for us to understand as to what comes next. And obviously later on, we'll see the normalization where all this corruption becomes normal, and people like us who are not really, come from a political cloud or anything else, just a normal person in a society, will have nothing to add, nothing to, no aspect, no ability to positively impact our community. And 3.8 years, I say we're almost actually 3.9 years now. All we saw in American context is Trump tax that they want to see. We want all sorts of personal calamity and attacks on his characters, as well as race battle that we have seen recently, BLM that burst in the country. And we have seen Russian collusion over and over and over again in all the channels, whether it's MSNBC, whether it was NBC, CNN, New York Times, Washington Post, BBC, Bloomberg, Telegraph, didn't matter. Impeachment and impeachment and impeachment. That is all we have heard until this early this year. And then obviously now we are seeing the Chinese coronavirus that attacked us, and the BLM that the Black Lives Matter that broke, and of course again Trump tax too, another shot at it. Now what is going to come next? Nobody is hiding at this point that they just simply want Trump to go away, and they will do anything for him to go away. There is a piece in New York Times that says, Trump, just resign before you are taken away. How do you say that from a democratically elected person? We elected him. I voted for him. There are several of us, 60, 65 million voted for him. So it's a democratic process. You can't just tell them to resign. He's doing his job. This is why he was hired to do the job. In the last 11 weeks or so, all we saw was chaos in the entire country. Major states were ruled by Democrat governors. Major cities who are ruled by Democratic leaderships. Also, a tremendous amount of chaos, violence, riots, and nobody is stopping them. And the slight difference from India and over here is actually, in India, you can with the state and the federal government. Over here, Trump just cannot enforce that this is what I exactly want. He has to give the governors, the states, the responsibility to take action. He can suggest, he can tell, he has provide them, but the governors has to make decisions. And this is what we have seen. The governors and as well as the cities leaderships would not take any kind of decisions on stabilizing the situation, bring down the chaos, arrest the criminals. Unfortunately, what we are seeing is they are actually protecting the criminals. They're actually letting out the criminals. If the police is arresting, they are stopping the police from arresting the criminals. So they're trying the hands of the law enforcement. So you can't really do anything. All you can see around us is chaos. Ilhan Omar has declared that America must be dismantled. She's a congresswoman, as you know. A Breathe Act was it's getting passed to defund police. Shama Savan, she is an Indian woman, far leftist in Seattle. She hates the big government. She hates the Trump government. She also hates absolutely the big tech industries, and she's coming after them and saying that we are coming for you, your rotten system. Linda Soso is a Palestinian activist, very much connected to all Muslim brotherhoods and organizations like Council of American Islamic Relations. She has gone against Israel and saying that Israel is actually genociding Palestinian people. And I left it, there are several, and we'll look into it in terms of what Indian Americans' thought process is. As you know, most of them are Democrats. Unfortunately, even now, we see most of the Indian American are Democrats and rooting for Biden, raising funds for Biden, aligned with the BLM. Unfortunately, this is very difficult for me to accept. We, as an Indian American, we didn't come here as a slave. Myself, I didn't come here as a slave. I was an engineer in India. I came here for a job. Nobody forced me to come to America. I came here because this is a better country. I could have a better life. If it was a worse country than India, I wouldn't have chosen to come over here. So aligning and equating an Indian American to a BLM, a Black Lives Matter, whose fundamental focus is slavery, and they're saying that they're oppressed community. We are not dependent on system. We're not taking welfares from the American government. So how can an Indian American today sitting over here say we are same as a Black American? We are not. And we also saw within our country, the Chinese embassy was instructed to close in Houston. We saw Trump stood up very firmly against China's aggression. China's stealing of intellectual properties, as well as arresting Harvard researchers, Chinese researchers who's working for China in Harvard. And similarly, there are several things happening within the institutions over here, educational institutions over here, soft ground for China. Internationally, from context of United States, we also saw how Pakistan has declared bin Laden as a martyr, and Iran has placed a target on Mr. Trump, and China blamed the United States for coronavirus pandemic, and they didn't take any responsibility or accountability as to what is happening throughout the entire world, how they brought down one small virus, they brought down the entire world. Every country is suffering for this. People are dying. And US, we also know that US supported India's China-India face-off and sent troop out. Secretary Pompeo sent troop out for India's benefit. And recently, just a couple of weeks ago, we have seen Turkey declaring Hagia Sophia as a mosque again. And this is very important for us because we know after almost 90 years, this particular museum has been turned into a mosque, and there are now prominent writers, journalists writing in Washington Post that they need to bring down Christian artifacts from this museum. And we all know it was not, it was confiscated in 15th century. In Turkey, it was not even a Muslim country. It was Constantinople's very important trade hub at that point. So if you look at US today, you can cross US today and write India. You can write India here. It's exact same information you will see. All is happening over here is literally take all kinds of issues, social issues, whether it's equality, diversity, and multiculturalism, anti-racism, political correctness, and attack the government. And at the end of the day, people like us, who has nothing to do with politics, we do get impacted. Our lives do get impacted. And from a context of United States, we have a population of 330 million, but 13% Black, 60% white, and we fall under the 18% of Asian. Only 5 million overall Hindus from all over the country is here. Only 2.8 Indian American, let's say. But at the end of the day, you also have Fijian Hindus, you have Mauritius Hindus. So overall, if you look at the population, we say about 5 million. But if you see the crimes, 70% crimes are committed by Blacks. 68% prison population is also Black population. So if you look at the population itself, 13% Black population is causing 70% crime. You have to look into the issue as to why. And when somebody says BLM, Black Lives Matter, it's a slogan. Black Lives Matter and slogan is much different from what the cause is. The dollar amount that is getting poured to Black Lives Matter, none of it is going to the Black Lives Matter or improving Black Lives Matter anyways. If you look at the site, you will see the dollar amount is actually moving from when the donation is collected, it is going to Act Blue. Act Blue is a PAC, it's a political action committee, which is literally funding dollar amounts to elect Democrat leaders. So it is nothing to do with the Black lives at all. So aligning, and as an Indian American, when an Indian American aligns a Black Lives Matter and jumps on the bandwagon that we are the same, we are oppressed, we are not oppressed. If we are oppressed in this country, why did we come here? Nobody forced us to come here. And then you talk about slavery, they talk about the Blacks are oppressed, and that is why it's happening. The crimes are happening because Black community is oppressed. This country already elected Barack Obama not one time, 2 times. If this country was a racist country, it was a white country, and they hated Blacks, why did Barack Obama come? And how did he win twice? And if he was a Black president, what did he do for the Black community? And if we are talking about the slavery, does this country have a slavery issue today? Are we slaves to this country? Is any Black who owns, any Black who is a slave to another white person today in this country in 2020? I'm talking about in the month of August. There are several African countries who are still going through slavery today, 5 of them, especially speaking. Mr. Charles Jacob, you should look him up. He does a lot of research on this. About 500 to 800K, thousands of slaves are serving Arab Sheikh masters. But Nation of Islam, Mr. Louis Farrakhan denies it. So basically what I'm trying to tell you today is what you have seen over the last few months, the outbreak of Black Lives Matter. The agenda is absolutely different from the slogan. And when somebody is trying to come after white folks, and saying that, you are oppressing us, that's absolutely a complete lie. It was done to destabilize this country. Right. At the same time, we look at the Black Lives Matter founder, Ms. Patrice Cullors. She says we are trained Marxists and our goal is to oust Trump. So how can it be a social issue? And then let's look at a little bit of information about what these activists have said. One of the activists named Hawk Newsom, he says that Jesus Christ is the most famous Black radical revolutionary. Black leader Newsom also threatens that if US doesn't give us what we want, we will burn the system. Activist Sean King comes and says that Jesus is the symbol of white supremacy. BLM co-founder we talked about, Patrice Collos, who says we're trained Marxists, our goal is to get Trump out, and there's videos all over about it. It is absolutely a well-funded, organized political propaganda. It's a Marxist movement. This is it. If you look at the media, how they play along with the Marxist agenda. Look at the top 3 photo right over here. Look at the picture. They're smiling. They're looking up. They have a positive connotation. Look at the bottom ones. It doesn't matter whether it's Mr. Modi, whether it's a Brazilian Bolsonaro, whether it is Trump of America, whether it's Boris Johnson from UK, it doesn't matter. It is all negative press by the media. I call it media mafia. This bias of leftism is extremely high. And if we intelligent people don't know how to how to find a difference between what they're trying to do, then we have a problem ourselves. And similarly, if you look at, there are 2 pictures I put over here for you to look at. New York Times, as we said, please quit before we are fired. You are fired. Same thing with Modi. Modi found temple on mosque's ruin. What they failed to mention is that it was not a mosque ruin. It was not built on mosque ruin. The mosque was built on a ruin of a temple. And we waited almost 500 years for this justice to occur. And we went through court, a democratic process. Supreme Court, we fought for it for years, for decades and for centuries. These are the media bias that is happening. And 29 times Trump was put on Time magazine's cover, 29 times since his presidency, actually. If you look at what the left has done, as you already established, there is left, there is right. There's ideological difference at this point, and you can literally take our Democratic Party, whether it's Labour Front, whether it's a Left Front, whether it is a Democratic, Socialist, Communist Party, it doesn't matter what label you use. They're all leftist organizations. All we see over here is voter fraud, free stuff, welfare, cities are ruined, crimes filled, poverty stricken, we're corrupted, extremely highly corrupted, lawlessness. There's nobody who's getting punished in terms of if criminals can come and shoot me right now, they will not get punished. Illegal immigration. This is what they have done in this country, and this is what they support. Same thing in India. If you don't mind, can we move into the Islamism next?
Yes.
Great, awesome. So we'll look into the second threat. So basically, I would like to establish that this is not happening in the silo. And everything that is happening in India has a global connection. Everything is happening over here has a global connection as well. I have taken one simple connection for you over here to show you how it all fits together. Joe Biden's Muslim agenda and statements against Kashmir, against Modi, against India is not out of silo, because they know they are connected to the Congress party, they're connected to the China's CCP. And as you can see in the screen, Congress parties, folks, whether it's Harsh Mandar, whether it is daughter of previous Prime Minister Singh, they are all connected to Open Society Foundation, which is George Soros. The fundings are coming from external enemies of India. They want to topple this country. They don't want India to shine. They don't want India to economically become better. And where are these connections coming from? The fundings are coming from Islamic countries as well. If you look at, I have highlighted in the red, whether it's a Council of American Indian Relations Equality Lab, which is run by Tenmori Soundarajan. She's a South Indian girl, Tamilian name, and she calls herself as a Dalit, portrayed herself as a Dalit, but she is a daughter of 2 doctors in America. How can she be oppressed? She portrayed herself as a Dalit in America and bringing out Indian caste issues right here to American land at this point. Stand with Kashmir, Hindus for Human Rights, IAMC, which is Indian American Muslim Council, SALT, which is South Asian Americans leading together, Students Against Hindutva, Holi Against Hindutva, that was targeted against a Hindu festival, South Asian Solidarity Initiatives, World Without Genocide. They're all connected. They're all connected. Some are Khalistani, some are Islamic organization. The fundings are flowing through different organizations to defame Hindus and India here, right here in America today. So we are not far. We probably geographically far, but the content, the hate isn't far. Any organization that has a South Asian name on top of it, we have to be extremely careful and look at them very, very carefully as to who this organization is. And it doesn't represent Hindus. It doesn't represent India either. Most of them represent Pakistan. Most of them represent Islamic agenda. If you, this slide is quite busy. I have written down so you can read it on your own if you could, but the several representative senators on the Democratic Party who has placed statement against India on Kashmir, against India on CAA, including Iran, including Turkey, including UNHRC, Human Rights Commission, as well as CIRF, US CIRF, the Commission or Council of I believe it is Commission of Religious Freedom. So anyway, so if you look at this, the connection, we are already making a connection between what is happening in world stage to defame Hindu and India here, right here. And then sentiment is growing. There are several statements that was passed, and one of the critical one was passed by Mr. Biden is you cannot go to a 7-Eleven or a Dunkin' Donuts unless you have a slight Indian accent. It's a very racist comment. And it is not just for Indian American. He also plays several racist comment on Hispanics and blacks and etc. And he also, in the past, his statements against a racial jungle that his children are going to go sometime in the 1977, I suppose. And then against the black, if you're not voting for me, you ain't black kind of statement that is coming out. So he is a racist person, and you can't just hide it today. And his policies that literally divided, there was no integration of in the schools for blacks and the whites. It's a high segregation against communities. Today he comes and blames Trump for racism. He has been in the seat for 50 years in a political seat. What has he done for the community? Kamala Harris is a half Indian, half Indian Brahmin. Her mom name is Shamala Gopalan. She has denounced Indian heritage. She has literally took it out and saying, I'm a black and I'm proud of being black. I was born black. I will die black. Where is our Indian heritage, Indian connection? Unfortunately, we have on the left, you can also see several representatives like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez in New York, who has passed human rights issues statements against India. Ilhan Omar in Minneapolis, who has said about we want openness from India. India is not hiding anything. What they are not seeing or what they are not trying to see, they are trying to go on Pakistani agenda of pushing the narrative that unfortunately India is oppressing people in Muslims in Kashmir. And if you look at all this attitude with Biden is continuing, and there is a reason for it, because Biden is endorsed by Bernie Sanders. He is a communist, and his campaign manager name was Faiz Shakir, and he is a Pakistani Indian. Pakistani who literally pushed him to write statements against India, against Kashmir, against CAA. And now today you have a bunch of endorsement that has come from Muslim organizations to Biden. And a million Muslim votes also came across, who is supported by CARE, Empower Change, which is Linda Source, we talked about briefly, in Illinois Muslim Civic Coalition, and MPAC, which is Muslim Public Affairs Councils, American Pakistan Foundation. They are all part of a larger nexus who is supporting Biden, and that is why he's posting all this kind of statement against India. And this is a bigger issue over here, because now today he is also saying that he wishes that the American schools teaches more Islamic faith. We Indians, we Hindus have never talked about teaching Indian faith and Hindu faith in the American schools. But these organizations are so powerful at this point that they act victim, and they're trying to change this country's DNA. Give me 1 second. My computer is not charging, so I'll just quickly charge it. Awesome. All right. Let's move on to the last section. Literally, the extinction of Hindus. I'm talking this particular point very in detail over here, is because we are talking from a context of India and United States. From a perspective of this particular slide, you see overall what is happening in the United States is a building of a narrative. Whether it is an anti-CA protest or riots or a resolution that is getting passed in United States City Council, Democrat City Council, or Kashmir, protest against Kashmir, or casteism that has Equality Lab, Tain Morrison or Rajan brought it over here, or a protest against Hindus in the college Democrats. Yale University, Miss Shreya Singh, who's also an Indian, Bhopal born, I suppose, she comes over here and brings her hate on Hindus in the land of United States. From Yale to Harvard to Princeton to all 40 college Democrats are involved into targeting Hindu festival of Holi. Whether it's a Netflix documentation, it doesn't matter what you call. Overall, from sports to Bollywood to Hollywood, today a narrative is getting built on anti-Hindu sentiment. What it is going to lead to is very similar to what has happened to Jews, and we all know about 6 million Jews were killed in a genocide. This is coming on to Hindus at this point, whether it's in an educational system. Miss Rutgers, in Rutgers University, Miss Audrey Trushke talks about greater foundation of Mughals, Aurangzeb, versus what India is, what India's DNA is. So the attack on India is very, very strategic. Ms. Trushke is also a Pakistani agent. She sits on a Pakistani board. She's pushing their agenda as well. And if you look at this particular slide, these major 4 areas that we do get attacked, whether in India or in the United States, really doesn't matter. Hindus are getting attacked no matter where this Hindu comes from. Through media, through education system, through political agenda, also through religious agenda. And if you look at education institution, it recently, just about a month ago, so Ms. Priyamvada Gopal in Cambridge has posted a very anti-Hindu, anti-Brahman statement on caste, as well as she mentioned about white lives don't matter. Sitting in Cambridge University, what did Cambridge University do? Promoted her to full-time professorship from a lecturer. But the same Cambridge University chucked out another person earlier, somebody named Carl, I suppose, for a personal statement. He was a right wing. You know, Nidhi Razdan from NDTV is coming to Harvard. Harvard professors are getting charged on Chinese spying. So the educational institutions have become has become a soft targets for all kinds of spying, all kinds of document stealings and intellectual property stealings and research. And through those, they are taking out, they're targeting, even Pakistan is using today, intelligence is using educational institutions to target India. We know anti-CA resolutions are getting passed over here. There was a article that came out recently, just a week or two ago, that said 6 American cities, Democrat cities, has passed anti-CA resolutions. But I'll tell you this: I live in Milwaukee. I didn't know there was a resolution that was passed against India in my city, in the county that I live in. So the question is, how many Democrat cities has passed this? We don't even know. And this, the Milwaukee has passed it in the month of March, unfortunately. We have no clue. In Chicago, the bill brought out, and this is what it says. It was a congratulatory note on 74th Independence Day of India, but at the same time condemning violence against Muslims, certain communities. And the connection, this gentleman name is Harish Patel. She's connected to Ilhan Omar, and who's connected to CARE, and CARE is connected to Muslim Brotherhood. So you see the connections of what's happening in the United States. And this is an organization picture on the right. You see, it is called Indian American Democratic Organization, known by IADO. This organization has all sorts of all faiths, as well as Hindus and Muslims. There are 2 people right here, Miss Dilara Saeed. I want my pen back so I can show you what I mean. There is a Miss Dilara Saeed right here, and Mr. Abin. They have pushed the Chicago resolution, and they're part of Indian American organization. And this was also propagated by a news media called India West, which is run and founded by 2 Indian Americans. Their names are also Hindu, Ramesh and Beena. We look at media mafia over here, and I gave you a little example over here. We already looked at the New York Times mosque ruin, that how Modi is founding temple on it. But here is Rana Ayub's few tweets within a span of less than 24 hours. She says, how's a Hajj on, I believe it was sometime in July 29th, and the next day, she comes and talks about how Hindu temple, Ram Mandir temple is going to be against causing coronavirus. But the Hajj in Mecca is not. So this kind of, and this was another, she is a darling of Washington Post. Washington Post is from United States, owned by Mr. Jeff Bezos of Amazon, is a prime ground of pushing anti-Hindu, anti-India, even anti-America agenda today. So what is the difference between Hindus and the American patriot folks over here? Absolutely nothing at this point. I say about this particular point is very important for us, all of us to know. What is happening in India and United States is fundamentally they are trying to disconnect all Hindus from the land of Hindu, which is India. So if you want to take out the connection, when you are able to successfully disconnect a Hindu from India, from Hindustan, you are successfully disconnecting any emotional and psychological connection to India too. At the same time, we are also breaking them from Hinduism. So it doesn't matter if somebody has a Hindu name. They could be crypto-Christian or Muslim with a Hindu name at this point. Pushing agenda of someone else within the country and externally. I say this quote, I'm trying to make sure that people understand the value of the land of Hindus, which is India region, entire India region. As you know, we had Afghanistan, Bangladesh, Pakistan, or Burma, were all part of India region. And if they could have connection with Mecca, if the Christians could have connection with Vaticans, or the Sikhs have Amritsar and the Jews have Israel, then why can't we Hindus have a connection to India land? And from top to bottom, we have things over there, whether it's Rameshwaram or Kedarnath. How does it matter? But the leftist agenda is to connection the emotional and psychological and then create a barrier and make sure that the Hindus are so demoralized and they hate the religion, hate the country, hate the heritage of this so much that they don't associate with India and Hindus anymore. And that is how they can actually make sure they are successful in establishing their agenda. Unfortunately, some of the intellectual, they go by intellectuality, they are educated, at least from a college perspective, I say. But unfortunately, I don't see they understand the fundamental aspect of it. If we are for secularism, if we like every other religion, it has to be mutual too. It has to come from the other side too. If you are portraying a terrorist as a math teacher, as you know, Riaz Niku in Kashmir was portrayed as a math teacher. And today we have Bollywood movies like Bulbul and Tipu Sultan glorifying the Muslim atrocities. So we have issues within our country that no one else can fix it but ourselves. In Maharashtra, Ganesh Puja, the volume control is an issue, but if a mosque plays azan, that is not an issue. Every American organizations, whether it's a Burger King, Pizza Hut, Nestle, Subway, Tyson, Kraft Food, they're all putting halal symbol within their product. If we are talking about elephant that is getting killed in Kerala through a coconut, or a cow getting harassed and molested in Bhopal, or a sarpanch getting killed in Kashmir, or IB officer Ankit Shah getting stabbed almost 340, 350, 400 times. Who does that? That kind of atrocities we are looking at, and we unfortunately don't have the intellectuals understanding the secularism doesn't mean one-way street. It is two-way street. I will allow secularism and I'm all for secularism as long as you are okay with that too. If you are superior than me, then secularism doesn't work. If your books tells me I am a kafir, that is not a secularism. If your books tells you that you have the authority to kill me, to slaughter me, to behead me, to chop off my fingers, that is not a secularism. That is supremacy. So everyone, this is what we've covered now so far. We looked at the similarities between India and United States. We also looked at some of the major threats, which is communism, Islamism, and context of India and US, extinction of Hindus. And if you remember, I gave you a little bit of information as to some of the diagrams, so you know exactly what we have covered. In order to destabilize a country, you target three things. You target the law enforcement, you weaken the law enforcement, you demoralize the country, the next generation who literally despise the country and they think that there is better country than them exists, and they want to change the country for worse actually. And also from a perspective of economy, economical advancement through merit is also diminished, and that is where we are here, plus the illegal immigration, where the law-abiding citizens are on the hook to take care of somebody who they have worked so hard for entire their life to make sure their life is better. So the question comes as to what can we do about it, right? When specifically when I say Indian American, I'm also specifically urging the Hindus of America. Because at this point, within the Indian American umbrella, unfortunately, the Muslims are steadfast standing with Biden and the Democratic Party. And so Hindus must understand what they are supporting. If they're supporting Biden, they are anti-American, they are also anti-Hindu, they're also anti-India. This is what the message I'm trying to propagate and make sure the people also understand that. But in order to understand what do we do next, we must understand what a nation's leader must be. There are 5 categories that I have come up with to assess a leader of a nation. I'm not talking about a CEO of a company. I'm not talking about a CEO of a house or a leader of a house. I'm talking about nation's leader. That person must love the country first. The leader must love the country first. He must protect the people of the country, the law-abiding citizens, or also enforce law and order, meaning you are not protecting the criminals, you're actually protecting the victims, actual victims, not staged victims. You are also making sure your borders are safe from external threats and enemies. You're also God conscious. Now, I'm in America. America was built on a Judeo-Christian principle. It's not a Hindu country. I'm not here to enforce Hinduism over here.
Yeah, can someone mute that, please? Some people have not muted. Please mute yourselves. Please mute. Yeah, please go on, ma'am.
So if you look at over here from a perspective of Modi and Trump, do you see similarity between all these? I can say yes for Modi, I can say Trump for Modi. It doesn't matter whether he is a Christian person, he's a God conscious person. I'm a Hindu person and I'm able to propagate experience as well as follow my tradition. Nobody is forcing me to become a Christian over here. That's the difference. And one of the questions that comes over here saying that, oh, he's a Christian, he is going to throw out the Hindus. No, what he follows is a freedom of religion, just like Modi. Modi is not throwing out any Muslims out of the country. Muslims are very free. They are following their traditions and their rituals and beliefs too. No Muslims are forced to become a Hindu in India. Similarly, over here, no Muslims are forced to become a Christians, even though this country was founded upon those principles. So as a Hindu, I have my religious freedom. I can choose to become a Christian if that is what I wish to, but nobody is forcing me. So the differences between other leaders and when they come and bash Modi or Trump is something that we must highlight. You have freedom of religion, you have freedom of speech over here too. And these two leaders do love their country. We want to retain what the country's diversity is. We also want to make sure it is safe from the external threat. and we don't want to literally topple the country and change the culture. This country has a culture, India has a culture, and India, we're not even talking about culture, cultural for the culture for 300 years. We're talking about civilizational culture in India. We're talking about longest living culture from a proven perspective of 5,000 years. A civilization, Hinduism is gone from the world means a civilization, and longest living civilization is also gone from the world. So hence, from a perspective of characteristics of a nation, I give +A to Modi, +A to Trump. And my choice is very clear over here. Whether it is for Hindus, whether it is for America, whether it is for India, my choice is absolutely clear. I'm sitting over here, I will support Modi. And you sitting over here, I will support Boris Johnson. I'll support Bolsonaro in Brazil. And we also established as to initially what is the connection between US and India through democracies, through the common threats and shared beliefs and values. So you and your audience, if you're sitting in India, I would urge you to tell your friends in India and the newspaper to tell them the reality as to who should they be choosing and who should they be supporting. And if you have relatives over here, you have friends and families, tell them the reality. All these issues of border security, economy, migrations, and the job roads and trades and foreign affairs, I can put a big cross for Biden over here and big yes for Trump. And you can cross this out for Indian context and say leftist parties of Congress and rightist parties of BJP. It's the same. Context-wise, it is the same. So my choice is absolutely clear. We're not going, there's no ifs and buts about it. There's no questions about it. So when you see in the paper that Trump has done that, Trump has done this, you must also understand what is the role of Trump. One question I hear recently, Trump has restricted visa for H1B, etc., and Hindus are not going to vote. First of all, those people, H1 visa holder, they are not voters. That is number one. Number two, even though he restricted, it is a temporary restriction. Number three, he is a president of America, not president of India or president of China. So his first focus is America. Number four, Chinese coronavirus has impacted every country in the world. United States has the most deaths. You also must know as to why the deaths has happened. As I alluded earlier, hydrochloroquine works, and because of politicizing the matter, they have removed recommending hydrochloroquine. So lot of bodies could have been saved, but because of the politics, because of the leftist vicious politics, they killed people. They played with people's lives. They don't care about people. They don't care whether you are alive or not. They want to show the numbers, the death numbers. Thousands of numbers were fudged. Somebody's dying on an accident, somebody's dying on a heart attack, somebody's dying on a liver failure. They are writing coronavirus death because they can get money from the state. So the corruption is here already. So if you look at from a Trump's standpoint, this country has been hit terribly because of the political division. Not because what Trump was doing, but because what leftist party is trying to portray. If you go and research, you will find even half the numbers what was written about the death numbers are wrong. It's not associated with coronavirus. And half could have been saved if they actually medicated properly. The CNNs of our world has pushed research, wrong research saying hydrochloroquine doesn't work. I have written piece on that as well before. So when you look at the role of United States, role of Mr. Trump, he's absolutely right. These people are dying on the streets without food right now. He has to take care of the people now, right here, not the illegals who's coming over here. Not the people. So if you look at a leader again, to answer your question, or this question, I get all the time. Why should I support Trump? He just stopped H-1B. It is a temporary halt. And he is a person for legal immigration. He also wants merit-based immigration. So if you have the merit, if you have the capability, if you're qualified, you can apply, you can come to this country. That is exactly what he is trying to reform. And if the other party, if the leftist party will allow him properly to reform, change these policies, we can go ahead. We could have done a lot more, because this person is an executionary person. He says and he does too. He's not talking about anything on the fly. He pulled out America from the Paris Accord, the garbage deal of the climate. He also established Jerusalem as the embassy for the United States. This is a 50 years promise by other predecessors before him. And he is actually establishing things just like Modi, what he has done, Kashmir issue and CAA issues, giving citizenship, fast-track citizenship to 31,000 odd numbers, who is already living like a third-grade citizen within our country, religiously persecuted somewhere else, giving them a legal status within our country. And the Islamic group has taken that and saying that Modi is against Muslims. These people as a non-Muslim are getting persecuted. So you must also think from a perspective of what the nation's leader is supposed to do for that particular nation, not your own self-interest. So Modi is right in his position. Trump is right in his position. And when it comes to H-1B, these are temporary halts. He needs to make sure this country survives this death number that is fudged, that number that is following because the medical doctors have been instructed not to follow, not to medicate rightly. That is impacting people's lives, and that is going to impact the election too. This is why they are doing it. They want to show an increased a number which is falsely created to topple America's president, Mr. Trump. So my choice is clear, and so should your choice be. Now, if we talk about what we can do, is I would say elect President Trump, and that is crucial. We have 90 days, less than 90 days now for this election. If Trump wins, it's also beneficial for India, because we are facing the same kind of threat. The China is a threat here. Similarly, China is a threat to India too. As you know, as you have seen recently, the aggression against the border, you have seen what happened in Nepal. You have seen now what next is happening in the Bhutan region. You will see that same aggression in the Arunachal Pradesh continued. 73 years of our country's independence, a borderline was not defined. Who to blame? Why didn't you blame Indira Gandhi? Why didn't you blame Nehru? Why didn't you blame the predecessors? So when I say from a context of India and United States, I'm also taking a context of a firm context of Hindus and Hindus' interest. There is a sentiment that has built up over the years, against Hindus, mocking Trump, threatening Hindus, shaming Hinduism and India and America. In our own country, within our own country, our own people are writing these pieces paid by enemies of our countries. So speak up, stand up and support the people who's also talking for Hindus' interest. It doesn't matter if the Hindu is a converted Hindu, if the Hindu is living in America or UK. We have to take our interest at this point. Unfortunately, over the last 20, 40 years, Hindu interest was not a focus at all. As I told you before, this toppling of a government, demoralization and destabilization is happening in the United States at least for 40 years. Hindus are mostly interested in becoming engineers and doctors and making a huge house, millionaire houses. You are all from Andhra Pradesh. We know over here there are more millionaires from Andhra Pradesh than any other state from India. What will you do with $1 million house when somebody is going to come and chop your head off? When somebody is going to come and tell you 48 hours you have, either you convert or leave your house. This is what has happened in Kashmir almost 40 years ago, where Kashmiri Pandits fools. They were also intellectual. They knew Shastra. So why did they have to leave their place? Why did they have to leave their ancestor place? So what is it about Indians focusing, becoming an engineer and doctor when you can't save your own faith? You can't talk for your own faith. You can't even protect your own dharma. So to me as a Hindu, I don't see any issues with Trump as a Christian. He is trying to save this country and I support him. And you should too. And because of that, I have launched a campaign called Hindus for Trump. It's from iExit initiatives. iExit is an Indian exit from leftist to right, basically rejecting communism and embracing convertism, meaning you are for family, you are for law and order, you are for tolerance, acceptance. And who better to know more about Hindus or tolerance than anyone else? What's the connection between Hindus and Trump? We are all about acceptance, freedom, tolerance, responsibility. We are not imposing our dharma or our faith on anybody else. We are not going to any other country to topple that country. We are not going anywhere else and saying that we're oppressed. We are not going telling them that they must accept Hindus. Our Shastra doesn't say that any other faith people are kafirs or non-believers and we are supposed to kill them and we are okay to kill them. We are the most peace-loving persons in the world. We haven't gone to any country to conquer that country. So how dare anybody else coming and telling us what to do and giving us lecture on peace, lecture on diversity, lecture on responsibility and transparency? So do elect Trump, and this election is a critical point. I call it as a point of no return. You have absolutely one shot at this point. If Mr. Trump doesn't come, we have to see what Biden is going to do against India on Kashmir. Literally, a war is going to come. Of course, you know the connection of China with Joe Biden. China wants Biden because he's already bought by China. We already saw what corruption happened in the last decades or so in Obama administration under Mr. Vice President Biden, who's a candidate today for president. What happened in Iran, what happened in China, what happened in Ukraine. They have spied on Trump presidency. A falsified Russian collusion that was started by a dossier which was paid by Hillary Clinton. So how can you as a Hindu How can you as an Indian American, how can you as an American support Biden? That means you are anti-Hindu, that means you are anti-America, anti-India too. So I am urging all of you today to support this particular campaign for Hindus for Trump and make it a viral, make it a effective campaign for Hindus for India as well. And long term, the two objectives that I'm working on, one of them is, as I said, I exit, which is rejecting communism, embracing convertism, and also united, awakened India, Akhand Bharat. I don't want our India to break again. We have anti-CA resolution that is supported by Break India forces sitting right here. These organizations are getting funding from enemies of India throughout the world. And if we don't do anything right now, when can we? If we don't say right now, when we can? Shall we wait another 40 years? That would happen to us, that happened to Kashmiri Pandits in Kashmir. Shall we wait another 400, 500 years? For example, the Ram temple, where Ram waited outside his house for 500 years to be welcomed at home, sort of like a vanavas that he went through. Choice is yours. My choice is absolutely clear. And I hope I have given you enough information in terms of what the security threat we are looking at and how we can combat this. Together, in 3 months, we must elect Mr. Trump once again. So it gives us another 4 years to work on bigger issues. Right now, the focus should be Trump elected again. Hindus for Trump is very important. With that, I take your permission to end my part of the conversation, and I'll take your questions. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you so much, Purnima ji. It was a very passionate. Am I audible, Ravi ji?
Yes. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Purnima ji, for the very passionate and a brilliant presentation. And the resemblances between the opposition to both Trump as well as Narendra Modi are so uncannily similar and eerily similar to say, so to say. And we in India are facing a similar kind of situation where the Breaking India forces, they're joining hands with the leftist elements, the pseudo-liberal elements, with hedging from Pakistan as well as China. We are facing a similar situation, and we realize even Mr. Trump is going through the same thing. A lot of misinformation is happening against Narendra Modi. Even insignificant things have been blown out of proportion in India, and we are facing a concerted media campaign against Modi. I would have been happier had there been some American audience in this gathering. From what I could see, most of the audience is of Indian local. So I do not really know how far your passionate support for Donald Trump actually translates into votes. But then, having said that, there are a lot of lessons that we Indians have to learn from your presentation, and I believe there are a lot of questions. Already a couple of hands have been raised. So I would request the participants to raise their hand first so that we can unmute them and then allow them to raise their questions. And the first is Indira Garimalla Garu. I request Raviji to unmute her, and followed by Mr. Nella. I hope that's the complete name. Mr. Nella, he has raised 2 hands, in fact. So first our Indira ji, and then Mr. Nella.
Yeah.
Raviji, can you unmute Indira ji?
Yeah. He has unmuted me.
Yeah.
Good evening, ma'am. I listened to your passionate lecture, and you took one side, that is Trump side, vociferously. That's good. Anyway, clear-cut vision you have. My question is, what I would like to say is, you brought out some similarities between India and US. I would like to tell that in one way, in India, Hindus are the majorities, and majorities are born in India, whereas in US, the majorities are made. Because many ethnic groups come to US and the majorities are made. So the white people, they got threatened that one day they become the minority in their own country. So they voted the Trump massively. That is white lash, not backlash. It is white lash that happened in 2016. Whereas in India, the demographics have been changing for past 40 years because Hindus, they are going for family planning, whereas the other communities are not going for it. So this is what happened. And what you said agonizingly, the changes and what they have been happening, actually they have happened and we got elected, our choice of our leaders. Now how they survive and how the next elections, how they win is the problem. And these forces, what you said about communist forces,
Indraji, can you be specific about the question so that there are other participants?
What I would like to say is, Francis Fukuyama wrote a book that is Identity. He said there should be some middle ground, because these liberals, they have had their outreach and did this so many other things. Even in India, secularists went excess. So do you agree for the middle ground or not?
As I already told, thank you so much for posing the question. I'm trying to understand your content of the question. You're trying to see if there's a centrist that should allow. At this point, I have taken about almost 1+ hour to explain the difference between the ideologies of left and right. And even if you say there is a centrist ground, there is no centrist ground at this point. So I have established a case that how liberal outrage, how the leftist clan has a completely different agenda from a country's growth economy. We don't want to, it's America is a superpower, of course. At this point, we don't want to lose that status, which is what is going to happen if anybody else other than Trump comes to the seat. That is number one. Number two is, you mentioned, can we have a centrist ground? I am not of a proponent of a centrist ground at this point. As I established to you, you must choose a side right now. There is no middle ground at this point. This is a fight and an ideological war between left and a right, patriot and an unpatriot, nationalist versus anti-national, and Democrat versus Republicans. Unfortunately, in this country, Democrat Party has become a combination of communists and Islamists. And it's far left. There is no centrist at this point. And whether it's a Green New Deal, I call it as a Green New Garbage Deal, which is it's going to cost us 93 million, and giving out free dollar amount without working. That kind of attitude that some parties are pushing in India, like our party in Delhi. That kind of things are not going to make anybody's life better. You might say, I'm going to give free welfare for this and that. At the end of the day, I've also seen articles coming out in Delhi government. You may have gotten a free electricity, but by the time you came out of the hospital after coronavirus, you paid lakhs and lakhs and lakhs rupees to come out of the hospital. So you have to pay somewhere along the line. Nothing is free in life. So unfortunately, I hate to disappoint you. My stand is very clear and clear cut. A Muslim of any country has taken a clear cut stand or with Biden and with the Democratic Party? What is your problem to take a stand with Trump?
Yeah. Mr. Nella, can you unmute yourself and ask your question? Be brief, please. Mr. Nella? Okay, Mr. Rajesh Mishra? Yeah. Mr. Rajesh Mishra, can you please unmute and then seek your clarification?
Yes, thank you, Purnima ji, for such a wonderful session and being very descriptive about policies and whatever have been done and what is future planning. But I have a question. Actually, during last Trump election, on all social media platforms, we have fought for Trump because we knew that Trump is going to do something good for his country, plus that will be beneficial for India. But I have one question. India is facing a big problem of religious conversion, and religious conversion takes place under guidance of missionaries, and missionaries are funded by these so-called countries like America, Britain. They are funding missionaries. A terrorist kills only one person, but one conversion converts entire family. So can't all these countries come together and put some restriction on funding on missionaries? This is my question. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
I appreciate the question. It's a long-term issue, threat that we face as a country in India. Certainly, I'm sure Mr. President is aware of it. As from a diplomatic standpoint, this is something that should be taken out as a issue through foreign affairs and minister of external affairs, an ambassador of India to United States, working with several decision makers as well as policy makers to bring out that kind of issues. Now, I'm not aware of any document or any specific write-ups on the danger of conversion. So if you guys are working on it, I would like to get that information. Hopefully, later on after Trump wins, we can work on this as well in a future time frame. But certainly, I'm aware of the issue, and I'm not sure if you can do anything in the 3 months. It is a long-term issue. This has to be brought part of the organizations that I just mentioned, and also Indian embassy must also play a critical role on educating people as to what is happening. And I would hope that Indian embassy and Ministry of External Affairs also involved in this particular issue.
Thank you. So it appears Indira Garu wants to raise another question. Please go ahead, Indira Garu. But is there anyone who wants to raise? Indira Garu, please go ahead. Yeah. Yeah. But then I have one question, Purnima ji. The point is, during the last elections, there was one Mr. Shalabh Kumar who has run this Hindus for Trump campaign. So is he still with this movement? Is he also part of this, or is yours an independent initiative? That's the first question. And the second part is, what is the level of engagement from the Islamic world? What kind of efforts are they doing to actually promote Biden or support the Democrat thought process? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. I appreciate it. One first question about Shalabh Kumar's campaign last year. If I remember, he had a campaign called "Ab Ki Baar Trump Sarkar." That is what he promoted actually, and it was not a Hindus for Trump campaign at all. So my campaign has no connection to Mr. Shaili Kumar, and it is a completely independent initiative that I've started just a few weeks ago. So look for your support to make it viral and make it spread in terms of messaging perspective. Now for Biden, as I alluded to you before, there are several things happening from the Muslim camp. There's a recent one that came across was million Muslim vote for Biden, and it is supported by very high profile Muslim leaders of this country. One of them is a Palestinian. She's a founder of Empower Change, and she was part of Women's March, very anti-Jews, anti-Semitic person. She pushed with Ilhan Omar, she pushed the BDS Act on Israel, literally speaking. And then we have several other folks, as I mentioned, Miss Dr. Dilara Saeed, who's a co-founder of Illinois Muslim Civic Coalition. She is also instrumental for the anti-CA resolution that got to the floor of City Council of Chicago. And she's also part of Indian American organization. I showed you IDEO. There's another organization called the American Pakistan Foundation. Chair Riaz Siddiqui, he's part of that million Muslim
campaign.
votes. Yes, and then you have IPAC, Georgia PAC, which is Mr. Rizwan Hassan. He's the president. He's part of it, as well as CARE, which is Council of American Islamic Relations, and Nihad Awad. He's the founder of it. And then, of course, a very influential person from Middle East, Mr. Salam Al-Marayati, I suppose. And then he's from, it's called MPAC, Muslim Public Affairs Council. So these organizations engage. Another one too, CEO pretty much, his name is, I'm not going to pronounce it right, but his name is Wael Al-Zawat. Engage, it's a political action committee. It's also basically these organizations are backing and promising a 1 million vote for Biden. And you also saw the connection of Biden campaign as well as Bernie's campaign. Pretty much everything that was happening for Senator Warren or Bernie's campaign that rolled up to Biden. So all the Muslim voters are supporting Biden. And as I answered Miss Indira before, that Muslims have taken a very strict and strong support for Biden. Why shouldn't you as a Hindu or me as a Hindu take a stand for Trump when he is the only president who stood by India firmly, steadfast, along with his support?
Yeah. One final question before handing floor to Mr. Nandakumar to propose the vote of thanks. What is the percentage? During the last elections, 20% of the Indians have voted for Trump, and the 80% they have remained steadfastly with the Democrats. Would there be a change in the situation this time?
I can tell you a couple of things. Obviously, I'm sure Indian American Hindus, some of us like us, we're seeing a tremendous amount of collaboration with India and US. You have seen Trump and Modi rallies that happened here as well as in India. So that has obviously have shifted a little bit of game. But I have also seen a strange kind of attitude. Even if somebody likes Modi, they still hate Trump. So unfortunately, what I have seen over the years is, I can still tell you, the Democrats, though, usually are very good at saying what is not true. They're also great at promising something that they don't have. They're also great at, they will go to the extent of saying things and promising things that they know that is not even possible. So unfortunately, I expect Indian Americans to be intellect. I expect them to be educated enough to understand what is wrong, what is right, what is lie, what is truth. And if they believe the CNNs of our world, who are constantly spewing venom and dividing societies, creating superiority of certain kind of community, I cannot help those Indian Americans either. Unfortunately, as you saw, Muslims, no matter where they come from, whether India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Saudi Arabia, it doesn't matter. They stand together. They have taken a stand for Biden, unfortunately speaking. But the unity within Indians, because we're individualistics, unfortunately, we don't see that if Muslims could take a strong stand against Trump, why can't you take a strong stand against Biden, right? As a Hindu, because you know Hindustan is your land. You know Trump is standing with India. You know America as a country is facing the same kind of threats. So what is your problem? So to answer your question, unfortunately, I'm not sure whether Indian vote is going to increase, but we are trying our best. We're trying to basically propagate the message that is based on truth and fundamental beliefs of Hinduism. So I hope that our messages do go out and our messages do make to the mainstream, and people can get to see the truth, and based on that they make a decision. And I would hope Indian American, specifically speaking Hindus, do vote for Trump. And I unfortunately cannot speak for the Muslim community, no matter where they come from. And unfortunately, if Indian American, even if they're Muslim, they should have chosen Trump, because if they say they are nationalist, if they say they are Indian, if they say they are Indian American, then they should have supported Trump, but they don't. So you know what they're supporting, you know which side they are on.
Yeah. So one more question from Mr. Kiran. Can Mr. Kiran unmute himself and ask the question?
I just ask, global right work on the same way as global left works united, because global right is fragmented, global left is united. Can it happen?
I mean, you kind of answered the question yourself. Can it happen? I'm not sure whether it can happen in a very short period of time. The tendencies of left, no matter where they are, is very, very similar. They are extremely funded, well funded. They are extremely organized. They are planning ahead 3 steps and staying focused on their goals. And as you said, in the right, we have a problem. We're fragmented, individualistics. So bringing in unity in 3 months is absolutely impossible. You can't change the 40 years of work in 3 months. It has to be a miracle. But what would help us to propagate the message which is based on the truth, based on the belief system? Now, as I said before, I have targeted Hindus, not because they're superior or they're inferior or anything else. I've targeted Hindus very specifically because Muslims have already taken a strong stand. And I'm giving you the right information and the true information as to why a Hindu, no matter where they come from, whether Fiji or Mauritius or even from Dubai, as a Hindu, what is your belief? What do you believe in? What is your faith is? What do you support? If you support Hinduism, you must support Trump. If you are for India, you must support Trump. If you're for America, you must support Trump, because they're all aligned. His policies are for America. He's also standing with India. So if you're any of these three, you should support Trump. But if you are against America, against India, against Hindu, of course you are going to take Biden's support or Biden's side. So to answer your question, can you bring unity in the next 3 months? Absolutely not. What we can do is try our best to propagate the message and tell them the criticality of the situation. If they don't act right now, what kind of implication we can see? That is all we can do, and that is what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, thank you so much. Now, may I call upon Mr. Nandakumar, an IT honcho turned organic farmer and a functionary of the Tattva talks, to propose a vote of thanks. Mr. Nandakumar. Mr. Nandakumar.
I think any issue, audio issue?
Yeah. No,
Nandakumar?
I don't think. Are you able to hear me, Raviji?
Yes, I am able to hear you. I think he is not able to talk.
Yeah. Is he online? I hope he's online.
He is online. He is there.
He's there. Yeah. Please go ahead.
Then if there is a problem, we will, you can continue with the vote.
Yeah. It's been a very passionate presentation, and the kind of passion and the hard work and the gutsy determination to ensure that the right wins this fight against the.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, it's okay now. Is he okay now,
Yes,
or should I?
yes, you can go ahead.
Yeah. So thank you very much, Purnima Nath ji, for that very passionate presentation. And we only hope the Hindu interest that you have at your heart are protected in the US elections, and a better and a greater engagement between India as well as India and the US blossoms in the days to come. And thank you so much for the participants who've spared their valuable time to be with us. And we promise that Tattva Talks will organize similar programs in the days to come. And I also thank all the watchers on the Facebook as well as YouTube who have watched this conversation and have taken part in the debate. Thank you so much. And that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Purnima ji.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate the platform, and I appreciate talking to you as well.
Thank you, Purnima ji.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, with your permission, I will
Thank you
end
very
the
much. Thank you.
meeting. Thank you.